Now, next topic related to internal security, related with internal security and related with Northeast only, I will take up for discussion, that is inner line permit, ILP, inner line permit, ILP, okay, inner line permit. Okay, so we will be talking about inner line. I hope you are aware with the fact this decision which was taken by the government to include Manipur in December 2019 under inner line permit has left behind some unanswered questions. Okay, but you need to understand that inner line permit, I will be telling you everything about inner line permit, ILP, inner line permit. At the time of Citizenship Amendment Act, there was an announcement by the government that ILP, under ILP even state of Manipur will be included, and for many years the state of Manipur was demanding that it should also be included under inner line permit. But before, we will first talk, right, before December 2019, this ILP, inner line permit was in 3 Indian states, MENA. Okay. Now, one more got added, MENA, that is Mizoram, Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. Mizoram, Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. And in December 2019, which state got included? The country, right? The country witnessed inclusion of Manipur. And there was for many years Manipur was demanding. So, Mizoram, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, these were the 3 states in India where there was provision of inner line permit. In December 2019, that was the time when CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act, was brought, and to ensure that there is no protest against the amendment in the state of Manipur, a decision was taken by the Union Government, Ministry of Home Affairs, that this inner line permit will be extended to Manipur as well. So, many years of demand of Manipur ultimately got fulfilled in December 2019 when Government of India decided for inclusion. Okay. Now, those who don't know about ILP, inner line permit, first thing you need to remember about inner line permit, that inner line permit is a travel document or a travel permit. Okay. It's basically a travel permit, and it is issued by government, a travel permit, ILP, inner line permit. ILP is a travel permit or a travel document, you can say, travel document or a permit, and this is issued by government. And this is issued by government to whom? Citizens who are from outside state, from outside of the state concerned. So, it is issued by government to the citizens who are from outside of the state and they want to travel in the state, they want to visit the state. So, this permit is required for inward movement within the state, inward movement within the state, particularly protected area, if they want to move within the protected area, and they can stay in the protected area for limited period, even with this permit, limited period. So many people, they don't understand, right? Many people, they don't understand what is ILP, inner line permit. So inner line permit is a travel document. This document is required for whom? The Indian citizens who are not the domicile of the state, who are from outside the state, but they want to move in the inward part of that state which is protected, and that permit is for a limited period. That permit is for limited period. I would just like you all to remember that this system of ILP was introduced by Britishers way back in 1873, and it was introduced as per BEFRA, Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act of 1873. So when Britishers annexed the northeastern part of India, when they annexed the northeastern part of India, they could see, they could sense that people are, tribal people are very, very particular about protection of their culture and identity, and they can only exploit those regions economically if they make law which protects their culture to some extent. So keeping this in mind, Britishers, right, and you can say other way also, that through, through this they created, you can say, opportunity for others to enter inward part of the state with legal authority, that for some period they can visit inward. So either way we can see, but you should remember that this kind of scheme or the system was introduced in present day Arunachal, in present day Mizoram, in present day Nagaland, as per Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act of 1873. Okay, 1873. And I would just like you all, to have this understanding, right, to have this understanding that BEFRA, right, BEFRA, that it was introduced in the 3 states, and why it was not introduced in other states? Because other states were also having tribal population, tribal culture, but other states were having a slightly different history. I told you about Manipur. Okay, Manipur till the last decade of 20th century, till 1890, it was a kingdom. Okay, and it was ruled by kings. And then it became a puppet in the hands of Britishers. And then in Kingdom of Manipur, we saw birth of a communist movement. And that communist movement in the first quarter of 20th century was the birth of a communist movement, and that was led by Hizam Irawat Singh. I am not going into the detailed history, but a very interesting history. And that movement became so strong that Maharaja Buddha Chandra was forced to constitute a committee to draft the constitution for the kingdom, and in 1947 that constitution which was drafted came into enforcement, but king was the head of the state and head of the state was hereditary, and that is why we said that Manipur was a constitutional monarchy since 47 till 1949, and then in 1949 Maharaja Buddha Chandra was called to Shillong and was asked to sign the instrument of accession. When he resisted, he was arrested also, then he signed, and with that Manipur was incorporated. So because of this different history, that ILP was not there, but those were very integral part of British rule. They were governed and administered by Britishers, the Nagaland, the Arunachal Pradesh, and that is why they enacted a law and that law introduced this scheme of ILP, inner line permit. Have you understood what is inner line permit? What is inner line permit? Now, after this, we saw Manipur started demanding. There was a long history, there is a long history of demand from Manipur that ILP should be introduced in the state of Manipur as well. Okay, in the state of Manipur as well. But finally in December 2019, because the government was knowing that if Citizenship Amendment Act may be opposed in northeastern part of India, and that is why for different reason, on different ground, they created exemption. Some areas got exempted because of 6th schedule. Some areas, there was a protection because of ILP, inner line permit, and that is why the opposition to Citizenship Amendment Act was not that strong in many parts of northeast, except in Assam, in some parts it was very strong opposition was there. Anyway, so coming back, right, coming back, I hope you understood what is ILP. Now, let me tell you, now an opinion based question can be asked, right, opinion based question can be asked, that demand for introduction of ILP in other states. Now tomorrow if the same demand is coming from Meghalaya or Tripura or some other states of India, right. So there are, right, there are some arguments. So rather than talking about the future demand which may come from other parts of India, let's talk about Manipur. Now their demand got fulfilled. Okay. So we can, right, we can say, right, we can say that introduction of ILP for Manipur, for the state of Manipur. And let me tell you, out of all northeastern states, in last 10 years, the maximum security problems we have seen in the state of Manipur. Almost 50% of the violence from northeast now is being reported from one Indian state, and that is the state of Manipur. But at the same time, something great about the state of Manipur, I would say, every year when we see the UPSC results, maximum successful candidate from northeastern states, if they are, it's from the state of Manipur. Every year, a small state, but we see 5 to 6 successful candidates. And some of them have got rank in top 100. Every year we are able to see some good rank. In the field of sports also, if you see, I was shocked. National football team of India, out of 11 players, 9 of them were from the state of Manipur. Not only that, boxing and other thing as well. Okay. So what I am just trying to say, this is a paradox, that the state which is so much disturbed is the state, right, is the state which is able to create a special reputation for itself through exemplary performance in sports, exams and many other things. Okay. So we will talk, but introduction of ILP for the state of Manipur, which has happened in December 2019. Now, on what basis we can justify and on what basis we cannot justify, both the arguments, if we have to justify this. Okay. So what, on what basis it can be justified? Okay. So let's talk about this. Now, on what basis it is justified? See, if state of Manipur has long history of conflict and ethnic violence, it's primarily on account of alteration in the demographic profile. For Assam, for Manipur, what we see among the northeastern state, the demographic profile of the state has undergone changes. If you see the composition of population of Manipur, various ethnic group in 1949, and if you see the composition today in 2020, it has undergone changes. And change in demographic profile, okay, change in demographic profile is one of the reason, change in demographic profile is one of the reason that the state has witnessed so much ethnic violence, so much conflicts, so much bloodshed, right, so much bloodshed. But what is surprising, that you see, now what the government is saying, that outsiders cannot go in the state of Manipur, they cannot settle, they can go with permission, but they cannot. ILP is not only to be seen that now with this, what will happen, that outsider will not be able to purchase land, outsider will not be able to, will not be, and we are trying to protect the culture. So on one hand, in one part of the northeast, we want to protect the culture, and on other hand, for Jammu and Kashmir, the other way round we have done, abrogation of 370 and 35A. Okay. So now outsider can go and can purchase land. So there is disconnect in the approach of the government. On one hand, very rightly government is saying, ek desh, ek pradhan, ek nishan, ek samvidhan, uniformity in the federal, right? Uniformity in the federal relationship of the state with union, symmetry should be there. But on other hand, in some parts, asymmetry is what also. So this is what is complicating the issue. Okay, so if we have to justify that why ILP was very much needed for Manipur, so I told you Manipur is one of the northeastern state which has witnessed highest incidence of violence, ethnic violence and conflict, which is on account of demographic alteration which has happened in the state since its integration in Indian Union. And had there been a mechanism of ILP earlier, maybe the state would not have witnessed so much alteration in its demographic profile, and perhaps we would have saved the region from ethnic violence and insurgency and other things which we have seen. Okay, so one thing is this, one justification is this. Now, second justification, see, demand for ILP is not a demand to prohibit the entry of outsider of the state into the state, but it is just a demand to regulate the entry of outsiders. Okay, and we are only talking in terms of, right, India mein kya hai? People have very poor understanding of the meaning of words and very superficial knowledge about the issue, very shallow knowledge, but they reach to final conclusion. When a state is demanding that seek permission for inward movement, it is, they are not saying, right, they are not saying don't come, they are saying please come, but take permission. Okay, so we need to understand the difference between regulating the entry and prohibiting the entry. So demand for ILP is a demand to regulate the entry of Indian citizens from outside the state to enter into the state, and that too the protected area within the state. Okay, so if we understand the difference between regulation and prohibition, then we will justify the demand. Okay, we will justify the demand. And let me tell you, many in this country, they say that don't you know that Indian citizens have been given fundamental freedom under Article 19(1), and one of the freedom is to move freely across India. Yes, we all have a fundamental freedom to move freely across India. Now tell me, if I ask you a question, all of us have the fundamental freedom to move freely across India. Does it mean that you will come to Delhi and will enter and step in 7 Lok Kalyan Marg? You know 7 Lok Kalyan Marg? It is the official residence of Indian Prime Minister. Pehle iska naam tha 7 RCR, 7 Race Course Road. Now it has been renamed as 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. I hope you are aware, White House is the official residence of American President. 10 Downing Street is the official residence of British Prime Minister. And like that, many a times while writing answer, instead of writing Prime Minister, instead of writing, you can even say that recent decision by 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, this will break the monotony, this will bring punch in your expression, this will create interest in examiner to read your answer. So there are smart ways. Okay, so I told you that what I was saying. So if you have the freedom to move freely across India, if you are visiting Delhi, will you enter in 7 Lok Kalyan Marg? And if you are stopped by SPG, you will tell SPG, hey, don't you know I am the citizen of India, have the right to move freely across India. I want to see the drawing room, living room of Prime Minister. I want to see the park in which he takes the morning walk. You cannot stop me. Can you put forward this argument? Okay, forget about that. Prime Minister to bahut bada hai. Can you enter in my house without, because your freedom, fundamental freedom to move freely across India should be in harmony with my right to privacy, which is also a fundamental right for me. Okay, so we need to have understanding. Many times people will only be able to, same Article 19, which talks about fundamental freedoms to move freely across India prescribes the reasonable restriction which can be imposed by a state on those 6 fundamental freedoms: unity, integrity, sovereignty, public order, decency, contempt of parliament, contempt of court, and many such restrictions have been given. Okay. So, what I am just trying to say, right, what I am just trying to say, if you want, right, if you want to give a justification, you need to write in answer that though Constitution of India under Article 19(1) gives citizens fundamental freedom to move freely across India, but freedoms in Article 19(1) are not absolute, they are fundamental, but not absolute. And in the same article, Constitution prescribes reasonable restrictions which can be imposed on those freedoms, right, which can be imposed on those freedoms. Okay. So, this is what can be justification. You can justify that why ILP should be there. Okay. Now, another justification, right, another justification, the intention with which it was introduced in other 3 states. Almost similar conditions were there for Manipur. So, why, why it was not, given to Manipur before 2019? Okay, similar conditions were there, right, similar conditions were there. Okay. So, if you have to give justification, if question demands that a long pending demand of Manipur finally, got fulfilled, that was related to introduction of ILP, give justification for inclusion of Manipur in the list of the states where ILP is under enforcement. So, you will have to give this justification. But the first justification, because it is a question in internal security, it should be the kind of security threats which state of Manipur has witnessed, the kind of bloodshed which the state of Manipur, the nature of ethnic violence. And primarily, if we just look into the history, if we turn the pages of history, we can very well see that demography of Manipur got altered significantly the day when it was included in Indian Union till now. And that alteration in the demographic profile is one of the contributory factor for the state of Manipur, the nature of, the kind of ethnic violence which the state has seen. Okay. So, that should be one, but other also you have to include in answer. Now, coming back, right, now coming back, if I have to be critical of this decision, right, if I have to be critical of this decision, then I will give you the arguments that why this is not a very good decision. Okay. This is not a, so arguments which I will put forward to criticize the decision of government about inclusion of Manipur, about inclusion of Manipur. You know what, right? Let me tell you, first argument, in present day world, in present day globalized world, the government should promote transboundary movement of man and material, should facilitate more and more transboundary movement of man and material, should promote cross-cultural interaction, should not do anything which restricts the movement of man and material across interstate borders. And in today's world, the key to faster growth and development is cross-cultural interaction, trans-boundary movements. If a demand is coming from any community, any region, any community, any region, that, right, that leave us alone to develop on our own, cannot be justified. Okay, cannot be justified. And better protection of culture of a region can be, right, by promoting cross-cultural promotion, interaction, not by keeping the culture in confinement. If we keep any culture in confinement and isolation, it will slowly die. That culture should showcase its uniqueness to the region and to the people which have different culture. So, people are not able to understand. People are not. So we should have universal mindset. We should not have parochial mindset. In today's world, right? In today's world, people are having, economics have a firm view that economic growth and development only when we promote more and more cross-cultural interaction, trans-boundary movement of man and material. We should make it easy for people to cross interstate borders in today's world. We are living in a completely different world. 1873 and 2020, these two periods cannot be equated at all. 1873, Bengal Eastern Frontier, right? Bengal Eastern Frontier Act of 1873 can have some justification, but decision of 2020 or 2019 that people who are from outside state, today, you know, what is happening? All states are in a race to promote their tourism, where they are inviting people, come and visit. And outsiders who are visiting will pump money in the local economy. And will see the distinct culture and will feel proud about that culture, will learn so much about the culture. Okay. And even if you talk to historians, anthropologists, they will say that culture will fade or die if it is not progressive. Okay. So what I am just trying to say, can you write on what basis it is not justified? Now tell me, right? Now tell me. A section of people are also demanding that there should be a reciprocal relationship then. Okay. How can we answer to such demand? That if you are saying that people who are from outside a state within the country, let us say that this is one state where we have scheme. So you are saying that no problem, right? No problem. If you have to move in my state, you just seek a permission. It's a regulation. Okay, fine. Outsider will seek permission. But should insider moving out of the state should also seek permission to move out? Right? To move out? Some people in India, they feel that if somebody with distinct culture is residing among them, they residing in that region is a threat to their culture as well. And this is one reason why there is some racial discrimination. Okay, racial discrimination. So one thing which you can write, that the demand which is coming from some section, that yes, if for people who are not the domicile of the state to enter in the state, if there should be regulation, should there not be corresponding regulation for people to move out of the state? And we are finding that from all states in India today, people have a greater tendency to move out for education, employment, study, business, but they keep their roots intact, right? They keep their roots intact. Okay. So can you write this, right? Can you write this, that how can such regulations, if is imposed by government, can respond to the demand that should there not be a reciprocal provision for insider to move out of the state? Okay. So that is also some argument which you can give, right? That this kind of, right, this kind of decision is not justified. Okay. This kind of decision is not justified. Now let me just tell you, again Article 19 you can write, but in a different tone. If you are writing a justification, now you have to write, if you are writing an opinion that no, this is not justified, then what you will have to write, that Article 19 gives fundamental freedom to individuals to move freely across India, and only on reasonable restrictions a state can curtail to some extent the freedom, but reasonable restrictions should be reasonable. In the name of reasonable, unreasonable restrictions cannot be there, that entry of outsider in a state is a threat to local culture. You protect the culture through protective legislation, not restrictive. You talk, that the employment which will be in the state, 90% of the domicile will be given the employment. Admission which will be given in the university, 90% admission in the institution will be of the domicile. You protective legislation you talk, but not restrictive legislation. Don't talk, that outsiders should not enter. Okay, so we need to, you can argue, right? You can argue. Now, let me just tell you why these things are, right? Why these things are becoming so much emotional issue in India, because again, caste-based politics, community-based politics, language-centric politics remains the reality of Indian democracy. I will be talking in elections that one of the judgment of Supreme Court, that if a voter is, if a candidate during election is making an appeal to vote on the basis of caste, religion, language, ethnicity, and many other things, then he will be disqualified under Representation of People's Act 123, Section 123. But we will have a discussion on. So what I am just trying to say, the problem is that politicians are arousing the sentiments on these issues, and they are creating a wave, and they will ride the wave to get voted to power. There is no need for me to tell you that what all announcements are made. Abhi Bihar elections hua. Okay? One party, the top two party, one party promised, this is the single largest party in the election, RJD, though it has not been voted to power, but it was able to win 75 seats. You know what was the promise? That in the first cabinet meeting, the chief minister will sign the order for creation of 10 lakh government job. The other party said, no, we will create employment opportunity of 19 lakhs. Then that party became the second largest party, BJP. Okay, which got 74, though NDA was voted to power. Okay, NDA. What I am just trying to say, this kind of politics is going on. In 2014, BJP promised that every year 2 crore employment opportunities will be created, and within 5 years 10 crore. But in 2019, they preferred silence on this. Every party, Congress, for so many years, they have, been voted to power only because they used to arouse sentiment in the name of eradication of poverty. Every election they will, if we are voted to power, this time we will eradicate poverty from India. We will eradicate. Poverty has not been eradicated till date, but Congress got eradicated. Many regional political parties. So this is the biggest problem, that I told you, one thing which present generation politicians have learned from British rule, that is how to induce divide and get voted to power. Some are inducing religion-centric divides, some are inducing caste-centric divides, some are community-centric divides, some are inducing, privileged underprivileged divides, some are inducing linguistic divides, some are inducing culture-based divides. Okay, son of soil politics is gaining so much prominence these days. So this is the problem. So what I am just trying to say, the complexity of the matter. So you can, you can make a argument both in favor that why this inclusion of Manipur for ILP is justified, and you can even answer that the recent decision of government to include Manipur for ILP has left behind some unanswered questions, and then you can write those unanswered questions. Okay, you can write that how come in present day world, when cross-border, trans-border movement of man and material is the key to faster economic growth, a state is creating a restrictive legislation. Okay, so you can ask questions in your answer, because the demand of the question is of that nature. So this is all about internal security problems of Northeast. Once again, we will discuss when we will talk of border management. So with this, I have completed the first phase of internal security discussion. In the second phase, our focus will be on border management, coastal security, money laundering, and cyber security. Okay, and technical issues, which we will start after 25th of this month, phase 2. Okay, and I hope you all are be aware that next 3 days you have holiday, of which 2 days is self-study holiday. I have